appreciate you holding this hearing, and I think it's a topic that's all too often overlooked. It's a huge issue in Alaska, in my state. You know, we have, there's usually a debate about aging infrastructure here, right? We had that big issue with the town in Michigan. I'm trying to remember it. Flint, yeah. But, you know, and that was a big problem, no doubt about it. But my constituents were kind of like, well, I get aging infrastructure. What about communities with no infrastructure? What about communities with no water and sewer? None. No flush toilets. American citizens. By the way, in my state, some of the most patriotic Americans, Alaska Natives, serve at higher rates in the military than any other ethnic group, and then they go home from wars they serve in. They go to communities with what we call in Alaska honey buckets, which, you know, are not very sweet smelling, despite the name. So can I ask the witnesses first? The first question is, don't you think that when we have these kind of programs, it's kind of like the same argument we had with broadband connectivity, that the federal funding and programs should be focused on the communities that don't have anything? I have over 30 communities in my state that don't have any flush toilets or running water. During the pandemic, the CDC was like, wash your hands 5 times a day, and they're like, we don't have running water. America, it's really, in my view, it's horrendous. It's a topic I care deeply about, but could I just get from each of you a view on that? Maybe we'll start with you, Ms. Sherrard.
Thank you, Senator. Absolutely. We have to do better at funding infrastructure, and
but the priority should be...
Well, I would say, rather than focusing on compliance with regulatory standards, maybe it's compliance with construction, in addition to the replacement, but you've got to have it first.
Correct.
You can't protect public health without water and sanitation.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. Berm?
Absolutely. I mean, those services, we are seeing that in the southern part of our basin, our 18,000 square mile basin, we're seeing a lot of heavy nutrients added to the Gulf Coast area because of lack of services, lack of wastewater services, maybe lack of septic services that we're taking care of, septic tanks and those that are taken care of. A few of those programs we've had, we did get some money. We live in a state where they will put some money together to fund wastewater on-site septic facilities replacements. In those few programs that we've administered, we've had enough to replace like 50 septic tanks, 50 septic services, but we've had applications for well over 150 of those. So it's a big problem, not only, and I'm certainly sure it's a problem in Alaska, but it's a problem in other areas too. So yeah, that needs to be a priority.
Okay, Ms. Pyatt.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan. I happen to work with the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, which is the Western RCAP, and Alaska was one of my territories.
I know, you have a lot of experience.
I do have a lot of experience.
But what's your view? I mean, don't we need to get the federal dollars to the places that don't have anything first?
Yes.
Seems pretty obvious.
It is very obvious. I will say that it has been one of the hardest boulders to push up the hill because we don't have the infrastructure on the ground then to develop those projects, to manage those projects, to own those projects. And so in my mind, yes, we need the physical infrastructure, but we also need to invest in the human element that will make those projects sustainable to address the needs of those communities.
Yeah. Thank you. And look, I just want to mention one thing. I always bring this chart out. I'm going to bring it out again. This is a chart that I like to highlight. In Alaska, it shows life expectancy changes in the last 25 years. In America, and the state and the region of my state that has had the most increase in life expectancy of any state in the country from 1980 to 2014 was Alaska, up to 13 years of increased life expectancy, which to me is like, hey, that's the most important indicator of policy success there can be. The people you represent, are they living longer? I think that's pretty obvious. So I bring this up because a lot of this has to do with resource development, job opportunities, but a lot of it has to do with this. water and sewer, basic services that most Americans think, of course every American has flush toilets and running water. Nope, that's not the case. So I always like to remind people, hey, when you're shutting down opportunities, when you're shutting down resource development, yes, oil and gas, we need it. The Native people in my state certainly are really focused on this. Matter of fact, the leaders from the North Slope Borough are in town right now, the elected leaders, tribal leaders, Alaska Native Corporate leaders. They've tried to meet with Secretary Holland 7 times in a row since they've been here. 7 times. She won't meet with them. Crazy. I don't know why that's happening. It's happening again today. But I want to thank the witnesses. Really, really important issue. And again, Mr. Chairman, I think the idea of prioritization of the places that don't have anything to begin with, and then you can upgrade Flint, Michigan, and other things. But I think it's really an issue of fairness, and looks like all the panelists would agree with that approach. So thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for holding this important hearing. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for joining us.